gave me a heads up that she may be running late for a few minutes. So I guess we can go ahead and call the meeting to order. So now it's 6:01. Let's call the meeting to order. Let's see. Donna, would you like to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, absolutely. So would you please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Next, may I have Valerie for your help in taking roll for us?
Okay. David Lynn?
Present.
Marcia Solario?
Present.
Dario Castellanos?
Yeah.
Dario, you may be on mute in case you were speaking.
Donna Chia?
Present.
Rosario Diaz?
Present.
Jim Grivich?
Present.
Colleen Rosati? And Dario Castellanos?
His microphone is listed as muted.
Okay.
Well, I guess we can come back to Dario and Colleen at a later time.
Okay.
Let's move on to the public comments, if we happen to have any.
No, I didn't receive any emails.
Okay, so let's move right on to the agenda item number 1 here, which I believe is the January 27th Finance and Audit Committee meeting minutes. Did anyone has any questions or concerns with the minute?
Nope.
Well, if not, then I would go ahead and make a motion to approve the minute.
I will second that. I'll second. This is Marcia.
Thank you, Marcia. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, that's easy. Let's move on to the second agenda item, which I believe...
sorry to interrupt. Can I get a roll call for that? I'm not sure who said aye.
This is David. I said aye.
Donna, aye.
Jim, aye.
Marcia, aye.
We also have Dario and Donna.
Rosario Diaz?
Donna, aye. I'm good.
Four ayes.
Yes, I believe so. Dario and Rosaria, are you here? If you're here, please unmute yourself and let us know if you're okay with approving the minute.
Aye.
Was
Thank
that
you.
Rosario?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Valerie, do we have enough to move forward? Or do we have to wait until Dario returns?
We can move forward.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the second agenda item, I believe, is the comprehensive annual financial report and all the other relevant reports for the year end for the year ended June 30th, 2020. So, question for Mr. Carmody or Ms. Burr. Is there any particular presentation or update you wanted to give before we have the questions for you?
Good evening, Chairman and committee members. We have with us tonight our Director, Robin Bird, and also Scott Mano from the auditing firm. I think we'll ask Robin to give a brief overview and then be available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carmody. That's appreciated.
Thank you, City Manager Carmody, members of the committee. You have before you tonight the comprehensive annual financial report for the year ended June 30, 2020. There are 6 attachments to this staff report, including the CAFR. We did get an independent certified audit from our auditing firms, Rogers, Anderson, Melody, and Scott, and it was an unqualified opinion. There's 3 sections to the CAFR, which include the introductory, which includes the audit opinion and the MD&A and the basic financial statements, in the financial and the statistical. The statistical section provides useful data used for analyzing the history for comparative purposes. Just to go over a couple of the highlights, our net position at June 30, 2020 had a deficit balance of $18.9 million. That was a decrease of $16.4 million, and the main reason for that is our other post-employment benefits and our net pension liability that has increased. Our governmental funds had ending fund balances totaling $84.4 million, which was an increase of $6.9 million. And then you have a variety of other letters and audit communications that I'm not going to speak to in detail. I know that everybody's done their due diligence and read those letters, and I appreciate the time that you've spent going over the CAFR. The document is about a little over 230 pages, and I know it takes a significant amount of time to review that and grasp what all these schedules are. That pretty much concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also have Scott Mano and Garden Duran here on the phone call in case you have any questions for the auditors.
Thank you, Ms. Burr, and welcome to the meeting, Mr. Mano. Does anyone have any questions regarding the CAFR? Anyone like to go first?
This is Marcia. I can go first.
Thank you.
I'll try to keep them brief. Okay. I'm assuming everyone has the CAFR in front of them or online. First I'll start with the easy one. On page 14. Sorry, my dog. On the top of page 14, it says general fund budget. Does everyone see that first paragraph? So in the first sentence, it says there were numerous budget amendments throughout the fiscal year, mostly due to cleanup items, but the net effect to the general fund budget was approximately $5.05 million. I just wanted to know, what is cleanup items?
So a lot of those budget amendments, Marcia, were due to some errors in the original budget that weren't previously discovered until after its publishing. All of those items did go to the city council and were approved by the city council. We don't ever increase our appropriations without going to the city council.
Thank you. Second, on page 8, we have the changes in net position. So in 2020, for governmental activities, it looks like we're ending in a negative of about 18.6 million. And in comparing with 2019, I noticed a very big jump in the public safety number, which shows about 72.6 million in expenses. And when I looked at the adopted budget for 2020, if I'm comparing apples to apples, I'm assuming police and fire together was about 51 million. So is that an accurate number? We spent about 20 million over the budget.
I don't have all the detail here in front of me, but I would disagree with the 50 million. And some of that is again due to the pensions.
Okay.
And
that was going to be my part 2 question. Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of that net pension liability doesn't get, in the governmental funds, it doesn't get budgeted for, and maybe Garden can jump in and explain it better than I am.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so when you're looking at budget versus actual, you can just compare it at the fund financial statements. So just looking at the fund statements, which are page,
I think it's like 17.
Yeah, so it's like page 17. Once you get to the government-wide, now you've gone full accrual, and you can't necessarily compare the expenses there to the budgets because they're in 2 different bases.
Actually, the governmental funds are on page 20 and 21. That was my mistake, sorry. And the government-wide are on page 17.
Okay, page 20. And I think my last question, since
so yeah, what you're looking for would be on page 23 and 24. So if you actually look at the public safety expenditures there, that would be on the modified accrual basis, and that would be what's comparable to your budget.
All right. Thank you so much. And lastly, we discussed this via email, but I kind of wanted to touch base on it one more time regarding note 22 on page 103. Some of the committee members, including myself, had issue with the use of the term going concern as part of the title for this note. And the note, well, first of all, it kind of implies that COVID-19 and going concern are interrelated, which they are sort of related, but one didn't really cause the other. And second, when you read the note itself, it doesn't really go into going concern. So I'm not sure why we kept it in the title. And third, it's my understanding if the auditor didn't issue any type of going concern opinion, why are we using it in the note?
Scott, do you want to?
We didn't issue a going concern opinion per se, yes, but we felt it was the situation at the city is at a high enough level that we felt that this should be addressed. Could the title have been a little better? Yeah. Could the language have been a little better? Yeah. But it all goes back to, you guys are like the numbers in the top 10 high-risk cities in California. So not mentioning anything about the difficulties you're having you know, and again, they're not all brought on by COVID-19, but not to mention that, in my opinion, wouldn't be right.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you, Marcia and Mr. Mano. Sorry to interrupt, but I just saw that Colleen may have joined a moment ago. Colleen, would you please confirm your presence if you're here?
Thank you, David. I am here. Sorry, I was on another meeting. Thank you.
No worries. And is Dario here by any chance? All right, we'll check later.
Dario just texted me that he just got on, so he can hear us, but I don't know why we can't hear him.
Is it because he has muted himself?
Yeah, he's muted. Anyway, if I could do a follow-up to what Marcia just ended her question with and what Mr. Mano talked about. I'm trying to understand precisely what you were saying with going concern. In my previous experience, when I was involved with institutions that had going concerns issues, there was a lot of discussion about the expectation of running out of money and the horizon. And when I interacted with the auditors in those occasions, they talked about there was a substantial belief that the institution would run out of general fund money in a year to 15 months or less. And that's why, because there was a question on whether going concern was appropriate, and the actual projection in this particular case was 2 years to 3 years. So they decided not to issue a going concern letter because of the time horizon. Instead, they had other material weaknesses and things that talked about it. But there was a lot of discussion about it in the process. And I'm trying to respond to that what I considered somewhat specific in terms of what the criteria were for a going concern, and I'm trying to relate it to what you just said about the state has declared that we are at serious financial risk, we being the city, and I believe that's why you included the word in the note 2022. At least I think that's what I'm interpreting what you said. It wasn't due to any expectation that within a year that you expected the city to run out of general fund money. I hope I'm characterizing what you said correctly, but I'm trying to confirm that it wasn't the traditional kind of treatment for that language.
Okay, I would agree with that. If it was a true going concern, it would have been in the audit opinion. We would have said that we believe there is substantial doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern. I'm paraphrasing that, but it may actually be the exact language that would show up in the opinion letter. Okay, so we did not feel that it had gotten that far. I mean, based on your cash position, based on your expenditures and what you theoretically could cut. I mean, we didn't dive deep into going in because we didn't feel we felt we needed to say something about it, but we didn't feel it needed to be a true going concern opinion. And like I said, we put it in there because you guys are in trouble. I mean, there's no getting around it. I mean, your pension liability is ginormous. You've exceeded expenditures, have exceeded revenues. You're good. So to say that you're not in a financial precarious, to say that you guys are trying to phrase this, not in a precarious position, again, is to me, I thought we had to say something. And I thought this was a way of saying it without trying to say that you're going to go bankrupt in 5 months. And again, could the language have been a little different? Possibly, but.
Okay, you responded to what I asked. Thank you.
Can I remind everyone to please announce who's speaking so we know?
Oh, I'm sorry. This was Jim Nakov.
Sorry, Chief. That was Scott.
All right. Any other questions from anyone here?
Well, if nobody else has any questions, I have one.
Yes, please go ahead.
There's a series of material weaknesses listed in the letter that's titled Report on Internal Control over Financial Reporting. And what disturbed me about that listing was that some of them were listed as repeat material weaknesses. And if I read management's response correctly, it stated that the reason why there was a failure to comply in those situations was due to lack of staffing. And what disturbs me is that in essence, at least some of it appears to be a continuation of what was in last year's audit report in terms of material weaknesses and in terms of the reason for the material weaknesses. And I'm concerned that somehow or other the city has allowed a lack of staffing to continue for over a year and causing essentially the same material weaknesses 2 years in a row. And it seems to me that something would have been done in that time frame to remedy the problem. And I, at least that's what appears on the surface. So I don't know if I don't know. I guess I would like an explanation on how the city seemed to be incapable of finding staff to respond to these material weaknesses in over a year. That's the real issue there.
This is Marcia speaking just before they respond. We did bring this up too during the budget time. I know I, for one, and some other committee members brought this specific issue up that for the audit committee, this should be like our top priority is making sure that the staffing issue gets handled. Anything that becomes part of the audit report, we need to address. And I felt that even at that time that it wasn't being taken, I think, as serious as it should have been. So I agree with Mr. Grivich. An explanation would be greatly appreciated.
I'd be happy to respond to that. This is Robin. You know, this has been an extraordinary year, and we've had several members out due to COVID, which when we're fully staffed with 10 people, I'm still down 10 people from what the maximum was several years ago. And then COVID hit. We had employees that have children that were not coming to work because they had to stay home and take care of their children because they're homeschooling. So the city council was gracious enough to let me backfill those positions, but we hired 2 accountants in place of those. So that just replaced the people that were out. Well, one was on maternity leave, one was out taking care of her children, which left me with no accountants. Those were the only 2 accountants I had. I hired 2 new accountants, but you don't just walk in the door and know how the city operates. There's training. And so it was slower. We're trying to hire an assistant finance director right now. We'll be doing interviews next week and hopefully get a good candidate. So that will help with the staffing, which is going to take a big load off of my plate, because since the accounting manager left, I've been doing both of those jobs. And other than that, I mean, I don't know what else I could have done in this case. We have been flying jobs, backfilling jobs for people that are out due to COVID. About 30% of my staff has been out at various times because they have had COVID. So it's not an excuse, but it's an explanation.
Anyway, I guess my comment is that when the same thing happens 2 years in a row, we need to seek a remedy that works. And I mean, there's, I can think of three options. Perhaps there's more. One would be to hire basically contractors to do the work if you're insecure about hiring permanent staff. The other is just to hire permanent staff, since this seems to be a chronic issue. It's not something that's temporary, because it's been lasting for over a year. The other one is seek a council authorization to, in essence, increase the staffing of the department so that you can cover for the chronic vacancies. You alluded to a 30% vacancy rate. That's enormous, and or not vacancy, actually, it was absenteeism, and obviously nobody can cope with that percentage, and there needs to be a solution, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, there's various options, because this to come up another year, if we get the same thing in next year's audit report, I just think it's simple. It's a failure, because something needs to be done. That's my point.
This is David Lin here. Thank you for your comment, Mr. Grivich. As a manager, I can totally understand the difficulties to work remotely. I mean, to manage a team of people who work remotely, as well as onboarding people virtually as well. Robin, can you share with us how does your pool of applicants look like right now, in terms of looking for an assistant finance director currently?
So, like I said, thank you, David. This is Robin. Like I said, we're doing interviews on Tuesday. I believe we have, it's either 6 or 8 candidates that we'll be interviewing, and hopefully we get somebody out of that pool. We had, I believe it was 57 applications. There was an enormous amount that were not qualified for the job, did not have the credentials that are needed for that position. But I think the 6 or 8 that we have we'll get somebody, and that's our first step. One of the other problems we have, and fortunately with the assistant finance director, we've gotten that pay upgraded so that we can attract qualified applicants. But a lot of our other jobs, we're looking at doing a class comp study in the very near future, because as with all of our departments, most of our salaries are very, very low, so we're not attracting the talent that we need. I am looking at some various options to increase the staffing here, and that will be presented in the budget, and we'll see how that goes. But of course, money's always a problem.
Absolutely. So let's say if all goes well and smooth, what would be the earliest day where we can expect a fully staffed team, like in your opinion?
Well, we wouldn't get positions approved until the budget is adopted. We begin right then and recruit for positions. We are also looking for interns at this point in trying, to fill those gaps. But quite honestly, the pool that we've been attracting hasn't been outstanding in some of those other areas. We were very lucky when I backfilled for the two individuals that one was out on maternity and one was homeschooling, and by law we had to allow them to do that. We were very lucky in getting one out of two that I plan on keeping. She's very bright, very energetic. So, that was a good catch. But we'll see how it goes. I would think that with everybody that's out of work that we would be attracting some talent, and hopefully that will be the case.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate the insights, and I totally understand that you have been working a lot more than you typically did in the past, just to make sure that you catch up with the work. I wanted to express my gratitude on behalf of the committee to you. As for Mr. Grivich, I hope that would satisfy your concern. I believe Robin is doing her best to recruit the best talent to her best of her ability.
Hi, David. This is Marcia. Can I ask a really quick follow-up?
Sure, Marcia.
Comment? Just really quick, Robin. This is Marcia. Are we recruiting or trying to recruit interns at all from the local universities? I know that's kind of how I started back when I was in school. That led me to government/city.
Yes, we have HR goes to the different universities. I'm not sure which ones. Perhaps city manager knows more about that than I do, but we have had interns in the past, and they've been, a lot of help to us. So that's a continual recruitment that the city does for all departments. We have interns that we're recruiting for.
This is Jim again. Just a suggestion in that area. It's my understanding the city expects the interns to be unpaid. I would really advocate a different model for this. There was a time in my career when I faced the same kind of issues that you faced, Robin, and basically it was because the pay scales authorized by where I was working were inadequate, and I ended up hiring graduate students, but I paid them good money, and we got some really good people that way. And I'm just a suggestion to change the model because of your extraordinary situation.
We do have some unpaid interns in the city, but the finance department, the interns that we've had, we pay them. I wouldn't say it's good money, but we do pay them.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that's another avenue to pursue. That's all.
Thank you. So for all the meeting attendees here, I would encourage you to send any talents that you may be aware of to Robin. If you happen to come across any, whether it's an internship or a full-time job applicant. Do we have any other questions from anyone here? Going once, going twice. It looks like we don't have too much questions or concerns regarding the cover. What about the supporting attachments?
No. Oh, this is Marcia speaking. Are we expecting to see the single audit at the next meeting?
The single audit hasn't been completed yet. As soon as the auditors finish with that, we will be bringing that forward on a future meeting. I know that we had scheduled March 24th, and I was hoping to get it to you then.
Sounds good. So we don't anticipate to need the, I think federal government gave us 3-month extension this time, automatic extension due to COVID.
Now, I believe it'll be done by March 31st.
Wonderful, thank you.
For your next meeting.
If we're shifting to next meeting's agenda, is that where we are now? I have a request.
Just, do we need to receive and file or
on this one, yeah.
Audit report first before we go on to things, and then I think we can send our auditors on their way. I'm sure they have better things to do.
If there isn't any more discussion regarding the attachments, then yes, I would need a motion.
Okay, I would go ahead and make a motion to file the cover as well as all the attachments here. Do we get a second?
I'll second. This is Donna.
Thank you, Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is David. Aye.
Yeah, roll call.
Let me take a roll call on that. David Lynn?
Aye.
Marcia Solario?
Aye.
Dario Castellanos?
Aye.
Donna Chia?
Aye.
Rosario Diaz?
Aye.
Jim Grivich?
Aye.
Colleen Rosati?
Aye.
Thank you.
Yes, please, Mr. Kamani.
Chairman, as we thank and excuse them, I would just like to take a moment to offer my appreciation for the courtesy and professionalism of the entire team from Rams. I think they've served the city quite well, as in prior years, and I didn't want to just let them turn off tonight or signal out without us having expressed our gratitude for their team.
Thank you, David. And I want to say thank you to Robin. I know she had a rough go this year with the COVID and everything going on. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, your staff. Thank you, David, for being supportive as well. Just thanks, everybody. Oh, real quick, I was going to say the single audit, I think, is scheduled to be done before March 31st. I'm not 100%, but we can get a definitive answer on that. And then as Mr. Grivlich knows, I am open to phone calls. If anybody has a question, Robin and David both have my contact number. Call me. You know, if we can hammer out any questions prior to a meeting like this, you know, hey, the easier it is.
And I think that Robin and her team, they've been doing a great job. We have the findings, but we understand why a lot of them are still there. So we see the difficulties in our profession right now. There's not enough qualified people out there. So the truth is that we're all in very high demand. At any time, we can all switch jobs and get a salary increase because there's just not enough people that are qualified right now. So it's very difficult to be able to attract people and to be able to keep them. Some positions, people see them as stepping stones. So they're there for a short period of time and then they move on to something else. So from our perspective, we see it and we see the turnover and, you know, it is a finding, but we do understand why it's happening. And we see that they're trying really hard to, you know, improve the city. We're on our 5th year of this audit. So I can clearly see and say that from where we started, the city has come a very, very, very long way. So there's still issues, but change and improvement takes a really long time. It's not something that can happen overnight. So despite the fact that some of these findings are still here, I mean, we still have a job to do. We're still the auditor, so we have to report these things, but we have seen a huge improvement in the years that we've been auditing the city. And we just want the committee to be aware of
that. This is Jim. If I could make one comment, I do want to thank the auditors for responding to my phone calls. The 2 of them I made. I am somewhat ignorant of the differences between the state accounting manual that was applicable to the educational environment in the accounting procedures used in city government, and they were helpful in explaining to me the differences. I appreciate that.
All right, well, I hope you all have a nice evening.
Thank you, Garden.
Thank you, Ms. Duran.
Bye.
Bye, Scott.
All right. It looks like, do we have any other additional agenda item here? I don't believe so, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No, next would be the new business.
I know at the last meeting we had scheduled March 24th to be our next meeting. Is this still going to stand, or shall we postpone that to a later date?
I think we should keep that date. We can always cancel if need be, but I'm pretty sure that the single audit's going to be done. I want to get that off, cross that off my to-do list also, and get that to you and the city council as quickly as possible. This audit has been delayed for quite some time due to the state audit, and our city auditors didn't want to issue their opinion until they read that report. So it pretty much snowballed in them with the fact of the vacancies. It just exacerbated everything. So looking forward to crossing 2020 off the list and moving on to 2021 and 21-22 for the budget. I did want to let the committee know that we have issued an RFP for auditing services, as this was the last year on the contract. Those will be due March 4th is the deadline for that. And I will keep everyone apprised of the results of that. And I know that the committee had a couple of people involved, I think, in the previous selection. So I was kind of wondering what the committee's preference is. The interviews for the audit firms are typically done during the day, and I know some people work, but I will try to give you as much notice as possible.
This is Marcia. That would be great. I would like to participate in an interview if possible.
Bob and I would too, Colleen Rosati.
Okay.
And Jim Gurvich would like to participate also.
Yes, this is David. I'll be interested to participate as well.
Okay.
And same as here, Donna.
Thank you, Robin, for the update regarding your RFP for the accounting firm. I understand that I appreciate the willingness, the fact that you wanted to share the single audit result with us as soon as possible. But I know that the committee also has a concern that sometimes the documents may get to us a little bit too late. Do you think if we are holding the March 24th date as it stands right now, do you think we'll be at least having a couple of days to review the report and whatnot?
Based on the information that I have from RAMS, they were performing that audit this week, and I was going to reach out to them earlier today. The people that were on the phone call tonight aren't the person that does the single audit. And I was going to reach out to Evelyn and find out and make sure that we're still on schedule for that. I'd like to keep the date. The single audit is not as extensive of a report as the CAFR is. So I don't think it would take as much time to review. And of course, if the committee decides that they want to cancel and reschedule, that's your prerogative.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. I know the 24th lands on a Wednesday, so personally, if we can have at least a weekend to go over the document, I think that would be hugely helpful. But like you said, if we need to postpone the day, we can always do that too.
Will do.
Colleen Rosati, I have a question. Is it possible to get a hard copy of these documents prior to the meeting? Instead of, for me, I like to personally review them, highlight, annotate, etc., little hard to do on my computer, and I can take it with me. Sometimes I don't always have my computer and I can read it at other locations. So question, can we get hard copies of things? I printed all this stuff, which was over 300 pages on my little printer. So I would appreciate copies, hard copies, either leave them at City Hall or have them delivered prior to the meeting. Like David just said, the weekend prior would be best.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyway, this is Jim. My request for the next meeting was to review the second quarter report, the monthly accounting reports. I think that's part of our job, and I would hope that that could be on the agenda.
Thank you, Jim. If we have no further questions or comments, I would like to move to adjourn the meeting at 6:47 here.
I'll second that.
All right. Everybody have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Do the same.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night. Bye.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.